Hey, before I start the video, I'm giving away an Arcana skin, and the winner will be announced on March 20th. It's not random. I'll pick active subscribers, then spin the picker wheel on a live session to announce the winner. Want to increase your chance of winning? Make sure to subscribe and be active in the comments. So, with patch 7.38 online, I'll go through the biggest and most important changes really quick so you don't have to read the whole patch. So firstly, Universal Heroes damage per attribute got reduced from 0.7 to 0.45, which means Universal Heroes in general won't be doing so much damage. Also, skill points now can be spent on all attributes starting level 2 instead of level 6. Reflected spells now benefit from all bonuses of the original caster. So if a Lion with Aghanim Scepter casts Finger of Death on a Lotus Orb, it will reflect the damage to all his allies. This also benefits from facets, talents, and other abilities. Items now have a 3 seconds grace period when they first enter your backpack. That means if you have 5 items in your backpack and you order your courier to deliver 3 more items to you, and you don't receive the items that you need in your main backpack to be there, you can easily swap them now without having a cooldown. Though this doesn't seem to work on multiples of the same item. For example, if you get 3 bracers, only one of them will have the grace. The map received a lot of changes, most importantly this Wandering Waters. You can find it on north and south of the map. It has a stream, so if you go against the current, your movement speed will get reduced, and if you go with the current, you get a lot of movement speed bonuses, depending on which direction. It has a lot of new camps with new mobs variety. Those camps evolve during the match, so every 5 minutes one of the creeps in that camp will be forever upgraded to the next tier. And since every camp consists of 3 units, as a result at minute 15 easy camps will completely turn to medium camps, and both medium camps will become hard ones. At minute 30 medium camps will become a hard one, and both hard camps will evolve to ancients. Though each creep can only be evolved 2 times, which means easy camps will never become ancients. The mobs in those camps are Polywogs for easy camps, Boglet and Marsh Mage Apprentice for medium camps, Croaker and Marsh Mage for hard camps, which are the upgraded versions of Boglets and Marsh Mage Apprentice, Ancient Croaker and Ancient Marsh Mage for the ancient camps, which are the upgraded versions of the Croaker and Marsh Mage. All of those mobs have a passive ability that grants allies in range movement speed and outgoing damage bonus. Boglets and Croakers have an active ability that sends tentacles in a cone shape at the target location, stunning enemies and dealing damage, while Marsh Mages creates a barrier bubble that protects from magical damage and heals when it bursts. Roshan's pit is back to the river, with one pit located next to each side lane. Top pit is closer to Dire Jungle, and bottom pit is closer to Radiance. Only the active pit will be shown as a minimap icon. Roshan starts at the bottom pit, and starting minute 15 will follow the day-night cycle, walking across the river toward his designated pit. When Roshan is moving between pits, if he encounters a hero, he will stop and grab the hero, throwing them resulting in a stun and 200 pure damage plus 0.5% of the hero's current HP per minute of game time. There is now a Roshan icon next to the minimap that indicates Roshan's states, if he's alive, dead, or maybe alive, and his location. Since Roshan's respawn takes between 8 to 11 minutes, during this window a status will appear including a timer until his possible respawn. If a team has vision over Roshan's pit during this window, the timer will be updated to inform that Roshan is alive. Tormentors are repositioned to the corner of the map, next to the new portals, and now there's only one Tormentor active at a time. It starts spawning at 15 minutes, and it's also dependent on the day and night cycle, so at Radiant side at night and Dire side at day. So Roshan and the Tormentor will always be on the opposite side. And after the Tormentor dies, it leaves behind a 900 radius aura that increases health regen of all units by 2% of their max HP, and lasts 15 seconds. Lotus pools now have 3 entrances and an empty region at the center. Heroes will start automatically collecting lotuses once they enter the region. The first lotus takes 1.5 seconds to collect, and each subsequent lotus in a row takes 13% less time, though the timer will pause when an enemy hero enters the radius, and it will resume once there are no enemies nearby. Wisdom runes are replaced with a new building, Shrines of Wisdom, which is located in the offlane side where the ancient camps used to be. The shrine will activate every 7 minutes, glowing and filling with experience. To gather the experience is the same routine as the Lotus pools. The experience will be granted to a random hero within 300 units of the shrine, and also to their teammates with the lowest experience. And also as the Lotus pools, it won't be collected if there are enemy heroes nearby. Now let's talk about the items. Firstly, Orb of Venom no longer slows, now it just deals dot damage, and the dot damage is increased. It is used as a component for Mage Slayer and Witchblade. Orb of Frost is a new 250 gold item that slows on attack and reduces the enemy's incoming healing. It is used as a component for Eye of Skadi. Bottle will no longer refills when the carrier has a lingering fountain regeneration buff, which means the carrier must be physically in the fountain, which means heroes now cannot teleport to the mid lane to fill the mid laner's bottle. Abyssal Blade got a very needed change. Now it requires Sang instead of Vanguard, which means heroes that usually build Abyssal Blade can now have the benefit of Sang, so more status resistance and more slow resistance. Battle Fury got some small debuffs. Bloodstone no longer provides AoE radius increase, and now applies a basic dispels on cast. A Bloodthorn True Strike bonus on Silence target now only applies to the owner and its controlled units. Drum of Endurance no longer has charges. Heaven Halberd got a rework as well. Now it requires Vanguard instead of Sang, so there's no more excuse for your offlaner to not buy it. Although the disarm from it is now dispellable. Gleipnir got a massive nerf. Now it no longer needs Maelstrom, instead it needs Point Booster. Its total cost got decreased significantly and will no longer has the Chain Lightning ability. Eternal Chains no longer deals damage. So now basically it's a support item. Orb of Corrosion now requires Orb of Frost, Orb of Blight and Band of Elven Skin. And the armor reduction from its components doesn't stack with Desolator or Stygian Desolator. Phalacrity's cooldown got increased from 6 to 12 seconds and the slow got decreased from 50% to 30%. Though the slow duration got increased from 1.5 seconds to 3 seconds. Khanda now requires Tiara of Salamena instead of Crystalist, so it now provides mana regen instead of damage, and it will no longer crit. The Empowered spell will no longer deal attack damage, and the bonus damage is increased from 150 to 250. And it will apply break to targets. Which means, for example, now Zeus can break Bristleback without needing to buy Silver Age. Revenant's Brooch now requires Crystalist and Voodoo Mask with a 600 gold recipe. It provides 35 damage and 16% spell lifesteal. The active for it got removed and now replaced with a passive. Phantom Critical grants each attack a 30% chance to deal bonus magical damage equal to 80% of the attacker's damage. So with this combination, the crits from Revenant's Brooch passive will heal you since it's considered a magical damage. And now the neutral items. Basically, neutral items are not dropped from neutral camps anymore, but instead, starting minute 5, you get a Madstone bundle every time you completely clear a camp. The bundle will grant the hero that cleared the camp 2 Madstones and 1 Madstone to a random ally. They are automatically collected unless there are enemies nearby. So to craft a tier 1 item, you need 5 Madstones. For tier 2 plus, you need 10 Madstones. You are capped at 5 Madstones at minute 5. 15 at minute 15, 25 at minute 25, 35 at 35, 45 at minute 60. And the cap will be removed at minute 70. So now how to craft a neutral item. It is made from 2 components, artifact and enchantment. Once you get the required Madstone, you can click the anvil button to choose your artifact and enchantment. So artifacts will grant a special ability like Armor Corruption from Orb of Destruction, while enchantment grant the passive stats and attributes like magical resistance or damage increase. So starting minute 5, you will be able to collect your Madstones and craft your tier 1 item. So let's say you choose Pig Pole Artifact. Now you can turn to Pig and get the movement speed. You can combine that with the enchantment Alert, for example, to get the attack speed bonus and night vision, or with Tough to get damage and armor, and so on. You will always get 4 choices of artifacts and 4 choices of enchantment. And starting tier 2, you will get the choice to keep your previous artifact. And once the 15-minute marker hits, you can collect another 10 Madstones and follow the same process to craft your tier 2, and so on following the old neutral items timing. Keep in mind, the artifacts are limited to each tier, so you can't choose Orb of Destruction as a tier 2 artifact unless you already picked it as tier 1. Then, as I said before, you will have the choice to keep it as your artifact or replace it with a tier 2 artifact like Iron Talon, for example. Same goes for enchantments, but it's a bit more complicated. Some works from tier 1 to tier 4, some from tier 1 to tier 3, or tier 2 to 4, tier 4 to 5, and some are limited to tier 5 only. And neutral items at tier 5 can be crafted forever, so you can keep collecting Madstones to craft a new tier 5 with a different artifact and enchantment, but the price will increase by 10 Madstones each craft. And now the heroes changes. I'll go through only the important ones really quick. Abaddon's Quickening Facet cooldown reduction per hero's death increased from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. Alchemist now gains 75 GPM for each Aghanim Scepter he granted to allies. Also, his abilities will grant corrosive weaponry stacks. Anti-Mage got his counter spell back, which means he's now able to reflect abilities back to the caster, regardless of which facet he chooses. And now he has a new passive, Magebane Mirror, which will burn a percentage of the countered ability mana cost from its caster and deals damage equals to 100% of the mana burn. Arcwarden is now a universal hero, and his Tempest Double now shares the same abilities with him. His old facets got removed and replaced with new facets. Rune Replica. When he summons his Tempest Double, it will be infused with the bonuses of power runes for 10 seconds. So at level 1 it will get Invis Rune, at level 2 Invis and Arcane, at level 3 Invis Arcane and Haste. The other facet is Power Capture. Arc Warden will gain 1.5 to all attributes permanently upon activating a power rune, and Magnetic Field will pull all runes in. His Aghanim Scepter now upgrades his Flux ability, which makes it silence when the target is alone, increase the damage by 50% as well. His Aghanim's Shard now upgrades his Spark Wraith, which will make it activate a secondary Wraith that fuses with the next closest target, and deals 80% damage. Beastmaster's Aghanim's Shard no longer decreases the cooldown by 5 seconds, but instead increases the summon duration by 5 seconds. Bloodseeker's Aghanim Scepter no longer grants him the Blood Mist ability, but instead will make his Blood Rage deal 3% of the target's max health as pure damage. Blood Rush facet get a small movement speed buff and the bonus movement speed, while the ability's own cooldown is increased from 0% to 50%. And his Aghanim Shard will grant him 30% lifesteal from all pure damage dealt. Bristleback no longer has Berserk facet, and on seeing Red facet, once he activates Warpath, Bristleback will share his vision with his teams, but still doesn't receive his teammates' visions. Which means his allies will be able to see what he's seeing, but he won't be able to see what his allies are seeing. Chaos Knight no longer has Phantasmagoria facet. He has 2 facets now, Fundamental Forging and Cloven Chaos. Cloven Chaos will make his Chaos Bolt splits in half upon striking its target, stunning 1 additional enemy. And Fundamental Forging will make him able to choose 2 artifacts of the next tier when he is forging a neutral item. So his choices will be 2 artifacts from the current tier and 2 artifacts from the next tier. Chen got a new facet that allows him to summon the new Amphibian Creeps, March Mage Apprentice or March Mage, depending on the level. Klink's facet, Engulfing Step, will allow him to cast his Death Pack when he is rooted, but without being able to teleport to the creep, and added an Altcast mode to Death Pack to disable teleportation. Also, Tar Bomb now can be put on autocast, so Klinks will throw a Tar Bomb when attacking if the ability is available. Clockwork Hookup facet no longer requires him to hook an allied hero, but instead it will grant the bonuses as long as there is a hero within 350 radius of the hookshot target. CM got 2 new facets, Glacial Guard, which will increase the radius of Crystal Nova and make it grant physical barrier to CM and her allies in the radius. And Arcane Overflow, which will allow CM to activate Arcane Aura to increase his spell amp by 35% for 10 seconds, at the cost of increasing the mana cost for her abilities. The active duration will not be counted during her ultimate, and cannot be casted with Aghanim Scepter during the ulti, but will have full effect. Darkseer got a new init, which will allow him to restore a percentage of his HP and mana once he levels up. Dark Willow got a new facet, Shattering Crown, which will make Cursed Crown while ticking accumulate damage dealt to the target by Dark Willow and her allies, and when the counter ends, the accumulated damage will be dealt to enemies in the stun radius. Dawnbreaker got 2 new facets, Star Surge, which will grant attack speed to allies per each Starbreaker swipe or smash that hits the enemies, and Trailblazer, which will grant movement speeds to allies when walking on Celestial Hammer Fire Trail. Her new Aghanim Scepter will decrease her ultimate airtime instead of increasing it, but the Pulsing Aura will linger for 3 seconds around Dawnbreaker after she lands. Dazzle Novel Boon facet will now double the weave stacks for his allies, while Poison Bloom facet will double the weave stacks for enemies. If Death Prophet is on Spirit Collector's facet and an enemy hero dies during Exorcism, the soul will be added to both this exorcism and the charge for the next one. Disruptor's Thunderstone facet will make Thunderstrike effect procs on enemies within kinetic field even if the initial target is outside of it. Dragon Knight got his facets reworked. Now Fire Dragon will make his stun AoE and will make his attacks deal bonus magical damage to enemies and increase all his AoE effects. And Corrosive Dragon on the other hand will make all his abilities deal physical damage. And his Elder Dragon form will make all his attacks splash in an AoE and improve the effect of his init regardless of which facet he chose. Festus Void Chronosphere no longer suspends the duration of time dilation, and no longer freezes enemies' abilities and items cooldowns. Instead, both of those perks are moved to Time Zone facet, and Time Zone will no longer manipulate attack speed, but instead it will accelerate abilities and items cooldowns for allies. Hoodwink no longer has Tree Bounce facet, instead she got a new facet, Hip Shot, which will reduce the ultimate cooldown by 50% and improve turn rate by 33%, max damage, max debuff and max wind-up timer are reduced by 25%. Removed Bloodbath and Transfusion facets from Huskar and replaced them with Cauterize facet, which will make his Berserker Blood being able to be activated to instantly dispel him at the cost of 30% of his current HP, and after 3 seconds will restore the consumed health and heals him for 5% of his max HP for each debuff dispelled. Invoker got 3 new facets for his Quas, Wex and Exhort,
which will make him get 1 skill point for each quest, wix, and exhort according to the facet he chose once he reaches level 6, and increase the max level of it for 8. Aghanim's Scepter will grant him an additional 1 level and increase the max levels to 10. So the quest facet will make the Cold Snap heal Invoker whenever it triggers. Aghanim's Scepter will make his Ghost Walk applies to all his teammates around him. Aghanim's Shard will make his Ice Wall applies root if enemy stays on it for more than 3 seconds. The root can only be applied once regardless of how long the enemy stays on the ice wall. The shard will also increase the length and the thickness. The Wix facet will make his Alacrity grants attack range as well. Aghanim's Scepter will make his Tornado spawn 4 small twisters alongside its path when it's destroyed. The twisters will last 4 seconds and deal 120 damage per second and grants vision around them. Aghanim's Shard will make his EMP pulls units in and increase its burn damage to 90%. The Exhort facet will increase the radius and travel distance of Chaos Meteor. Aghanim's Scepter is his original Aghanim's, which will spawn 2 Sunstrikes around every enemy heroes. Aghanim's Shard will make Sunstrike spawns a Forge at the location when damaging an enemy hero. Jakiro got his old facets removed. Now he always have Liquid Fire and Liquid Frost, which shares the same cooldown, and now will always attack with his Ice Head first. This results in him using Liquid Frost first if both are on autocast. His new facets are Twin Terror, which will reduce the damage penalty for his double attack, and Icebreaker, which will make his Ice Path detonates when it expires, dealing damage and stunning enemies again. Can be manually triggered. Kez finally got his facets. A Flutter, which will make him deal 12% more damage on the first attack or ability after switching to Katana, or gain 12% movement speed after switching to Sai. Shadow Walk will make him deal 50% more crit damage when he triggers Shodo Sai marks from invisibility, and will reduce the cooldown of his Shodo Sai and Kazurai Katana when doing so. Legion Commander's Poise of War facet will now automatically apply press the attack on her all assisting allies if she wins the duel. Lich Shard Ice Spire will now be damaged by 1 attack every time Chain Frost bounces on it. Lifestealer now always has Rage, and got 2 new facets. Flesh Feast, which will make open wounds cooldown resets if the target dies, and increases the max HP gain per hero kill. The increased HP scales with the level of Feast. And Gorestorm facet, which will make him able to infest ancient creeps, and when he consumes a creep, enemies around it will be damaged by 25% of its current HP, and if he has Aghanim's Scepter, the damage will be equal to 25% of the damage done to the host. Lena's Aghanim's Shard now upgrades her Laguna Blade, making it give Lena an all damage barrier equal to 75% of the damage done by it. Her Flame Cloak duration got reduced and movement speed bonus from Fairy Soul stacks got reduced as well. Magnus now always has RP and 2 facets. Diminishing Return, which will increase the max level of Shockwave to 5, and on max level will make Shockwave return dealing 50% damage on its way back. The other facet is Eternal Empowerment. It will make Empower always active on Magnus, and grants him more damage and more cleave damage every hit to a max of 25% increase. His Aghanim's Shard now upgrades his Skewer, increasing its range and damage per tree or cliff. Marcy got 3 facets. First one is Body System, which will make her and her ally that are affected by Bodyguard share 100% of health healed by this ability. Second one is Pick Me Up, which adds an alt cast to Rebound that allows Marcy to bring her ally to the destination, dealing more damage. And last one is Fleeting Fury. If Marcy has Unleash leveled, will make Rebound grants Marcy 3 Unleash hits after landing, and if Unleash is active at that time, it will increase its duration by 3 seconds. Marcy now also has an ability that will cause her courier to instantly teleport to her. Medusa got a new facet, Undulation, which will make her movement speed fixed at 310 and at 465 during Stone Gaze, and won't benefit from any movement speed bonuses or affected by any movement speed penalties. Her Aghanim's Scepter now upgrades her Split Shot, increasing the target's count by 1 and making her secondary attacks trigger attack modifiers. Her Aghanim's Shard now launches a single target snake that will turn the enemy hero that targeted her with an ability to stone. Meepo got a new facet, Codependent, which will grant all Meepos a stackable aura that increases attack speed and armor of other Meepos. Mirana is now an agility hero, and always has Moonlight Shadow active, which will also increase her attack damage during it. Her new facets are Starstruck, which will increase the secondary meteor damage from her Starstone and making it apply blind to the enemy hit with it. Her second facet is Leap and Bounce, which will make her leap roots enemies when landing. Her Aghanim's Shard will make her attacks crit during leap duration. Monkey King's Simian Stride facet will increase the max level of Tree Dance to 5, and on max level will make its cooldown 0. Morphling no longer has Adaptive Strike Strength, It's now merged with the agility one. His EBB facet will make his waveform attacks all targets he goes through, and his adaptive strike will no longer knocks enemies. His flow facet will grant him 1% spell amp for every 4 points of agility, and makes his adaptive strike stuns enemies depending on morph strength. So basically, if you want to play on E-Blade Khanda build, you need to have a flow facet and morph to full agility. Night Stalker Night Rain facet will grant him Hunter in the Night for free at level 1 and increase its levels to 5. His Blinding Void facet got replaced with Voidbringer, which will increase the max level of Void to 5, and on max level will make it deal 400 damage and become a point target ability with AoE, which means Khanda modifier will trigger on all enemies. Next Assassin's Mana Burn facet now only makes Mind Flare burns 25% of the enemy's mana, and Mind Flare will no longer insta-kill creeps. Phantom Assassin got her Veiled One facet replaced with Sweet Release, which will make her dagger apply a stacking debuff on enemies, and if the debuffed enemy dies, it will launch one dagger for each stack of debuff on a random enemy. Phantom Lancer got a new facet, Lancelot, which will make his illusions deal 25% of the ability damage to targets when you cast Spirit Lance. Primal Beast Provoke the Beast facet now makes Uproar gets charges when he's hexed, rooted, feared, taunted, or stunned. His Ferocity facet will grant the AoE bonus at the start of each slam instead of the end of the slam. Pudge no longer has Flayer's Hook facet. Now he has Rotten Core, which grants Pudge bonus attack damage for every second his rot is active. His Aghanim's Shard now gives him the effect of Flayer's Hook facet, and if the hook hits an ally, it will reduce its cooldown by 50%. Ringmaster got his facets. Carne Classics, which grants him the original Dark Carnival abilities, and Sideshow Secrets, which grants him 3 different abilities instead. First one is Crystal Ball, will scan an area indicating if there is enemies there without granting any vision, and making the enemy's sentries and observers in that areas visible. And Weighted Pie is a target ability that will knock the enemy and reduce their vision. Last one is Unicycle, will make Ringmaster mount a speedy unicycle. He will be dismounted if he attacks or casts abilities, or get attacked or crash into obstacles. Crashing into trees will destroy them and slow him. Shadow Shaman Cluster Clock facet is now moved to his Aghanim's Shard, while having only the smaller version of it as a passive before getting the Shard, which will make him turn to 1 chicken only, while the Shard will make him spawn 3 extra chicken and add invulnerability window. His Aghanim's Scepter will no longer upgrade his ultimate, but instead it will upgrade his Shackles, increasing its range and making it cast Ether Shock on enemies around the target. He can also cast it on allies including his ultimate, but won't disable his allies. His new facet is Chicken Fingers, which will make his attacks turn an enemy into a chicken for 1 second, on a 15 seconds cooldown. Silencer got his old third ability back, Last Word, and his old Arcane Curse as well. His Glaives of Wisdom will no longer silence enemies on the 4th hit. Slark got his Trash facet buffed, which will make his attacks reduce the enemy's armor for 2 seconds when he's under the Barracuda effects. The armor reduction is not stackable. Spectre is now a universal hero with her Forsaken facet reworked, making her Desolate deal more damage but won't work on her illusions. Spirit Breaker Imbalanced facet got replaced with Bull's Hit, which will increase the chance of greater bash by 17% for every bashed enemies you did in the last 10 seconds. Take his Spoon Stash facet will make his previous enchantment carry on to his new crafted neutral item. Templar Assassin got her new Hidden Reach facet, which will make her Meld increase its attack range by 400 over the course of 1 second. Tiny's combo no longer deals damage to tossed enemies, but both his Avalanche and his toss damage got increased. A Throwed Bad Influence facet will increase his max fervor stacks and remove the attack speed limit during battle trance. His Aghanim's Shard will make him throw an additional axe at random enemy per fervor stack, which results in this nonsense interaction. Tusk will no longer be able to kick enemies when he is snowballed. Windranger got her old facets replaced with the new ones. Tangled, which will grant her damage per enemy's shackle, and make her shackle applies to all enemies and trees behind the target. The other facet is Skill Shot, which will make her power shot execute enemies below 12% HP. The threshold is calculated after the arrow's damage. Winter Wyvern got 2 new facets. Winterproof, which allows you to Cold Embrace towers without the health regen, and when you Cold Embrace an ally, you increase their attack damage by 60% when it ends. The second facet is Recursive, which will refresh your Winter Curse, auto-casting it on the lowest HP enemy if the initial target dies, and will make enemies affected by it take 125% more damage from Winter Wyvern attacks.